drones rained missiles and bombs at multiple terror camps at 9 locations, 5 in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and 4 in Pakistan. In terms of scale and significance, the mission, codenamed Operation Sindoor, was the biggest since 1971 war. Much higher in the escalatory ladder compared with 2019 Balakot bombing. Camouflaged by an earlier announced air drill on the Western Front, Indian forces this time hit deep inside Punjab province, the political and economic nerve center of Pakistan. Operation Sindoor targeted terror outfits that were behind Parliament attack, 26/11 Mumbai attacks, and the most recent Pahalgam massacre. Among the 9 locations hit were Bahawalpur, the base of Maulana Masood Azhar's Jaish-e-Mohammed, and Muridke, the headquarters of Hafiz Saeed's Lashkar-e-Taiba. Muzaffarabad and Bhimber had previously been identified by Indian security agencies as transit and logistic points for infiltration into Kashmir. At a press briefing on Wednesday morning, the Indian government gave proof of the anti-terror strikes.
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर 22 अप्रैल को पहलगाम में हुए विभत्स आतंकवादी हमले के शिकार मासूम नागरिकों व उनके परिवारों को न्याय देने के लिए लॉन्च किया गया था। इस कार्रवाई में 9 टेररिस्ट कैंप्स को टारगेट किया गया और पूरी तरह से इसे बर्बाद किया गया।
No military establishments were targeted. India has demonstrated considerable restraint in its response. However, it must be said that the Indian armed forces are fully prepared to respond to Pakistani misadventures, if any, that will escalate the situation.
The operation that started around 1:05 a.m. ended at 1:30 a.m., lasting 25 minutes. At 1:57 a.m., Pakistan confirmed the Indian attack. By 2:40 a.m., Pakistan began its retaliation, violating the ceasefire on the line of control. While the operation was extensive, no Pakistani military installations were targeted.
Earlier this morning, as you would be aware, India exercised its right to respond and preempt, as well as deter more such cross-border attacks. These actions were measured, non-escalatory, proportionate, and responsible. They focused on dismantling the terrorist infrastructure and disabling terrorists likely to be sent across to India.
The Jaish-e-Mohammed in a statement said 10 members of Maulana Masood Azhar's family and 4 close associates have been killed in the attack on Jaish bases in Bahawalpur. With these strikes on terror targets, India has sent out a strong message. Terror will not go unpunished. The ball is now in Pakistan's court. Will they learn their lesson or attempt another misadventure? Bureau Report, India Today.
Will Pakistan learn a lesson or will Pakistan attempt another misadventure? With me on this special broadcast is Ambassador Ruwan Azhar, Israel's ambassador to India. You've been watching how India is battling this radical Islamist terror. We've been watching how Israel's battling Hamas and Hezbollah and Houthi rebels and a lot of other radical Islamist forces in your region. What do you make of India's strikes in the heart of Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, sir?
Gaurav, it's only natural that India would take action to defend itself in the backdrop of this terrible attack that targeted civilians in the most atrocious way. Terrorism cannot be tolerated, and the fact that India took action, it is according to its right for self-defense, which Israel supports.
So Israel supports India's right to self-defense. The manner in which India pinpointed targets, Lashkar-e-Taiba headquarters, Jaish-e-Mohammed headquarters. Why I ask you, Ambassador? Because India and Israel have bled together at the hands of Lashkar-e-Taiba, the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks that I covered, including at the Jewish Chabad house where lives were lost. And Lashkar and Pakistan's state-backed terror had planned it to the T. Is this retribution? Does this deter those radical Islamist forces in your appreciation?
Well, although there are similarities between the situation in our region and the situation in this region, at the end of the day, it is the responsibility of each government to exercise the right to self-defense and to make the right calculations in order to decide what is required to be done and how it's going to be done. We are not part of this conflict, and we completely trust the Indian government to take action as it sees fit in order to defend ourselves. When it comes to Israel, there's no doubt that we suffer from the same problem, that the terrorists are actually becoming more and more violent and atrocious. And you know what? This is probably because both India and Israel are successful countries. And as much as we succeed economically, security-wise, militarily, foreign policy-wise, the gap is increasing between our success and their failure.
And that's the reason why they target us. They cannot match up to us, so their attempt is to bring us down. Is our intelligence-based operations the only way to fight this hydra-headed monster of radical Islamist terror? The name may be Jaish-e-Mohammed today, Lashkar-e-Taiba tomorrow, or Pakistan's ISI another day.
Gaurav, there are many things the international community can do in order to fight terrorism, and unfortunately, they are not doing enough. It's not enough to condemn terrorism. It is prohibited to contextualize terrorism and to think that terrorism only hits us, only hits you. Terrorism is terrorism, and if we don't tackle it, it will hit everyone else. And therefore, the international community should unite in order to do many things, to expose those who harbor terrorism, in order to punish them. We should do together much more in order to prevent radical content to entering social media and electronic media. We can think together how to develop capabilities to fight terrorism. And this is the responsibility of everybody in the international community, all the states. And as much as we are successful in that, we will have to invest less in military solutions.
Why is it that the world hasn't been able to come together, considering you've been bleeding for decades, we've been bleeding for decades? Even countries like the United States of America, a strong strategic partner of yours and ours, America has bled, England has bled, Europe is bleeding, and yet everyone's not on the same page.
That's very unfortunate, and I think we have to do more. I think that if we fail, if the countries fail in doing this, in supporting us, at the end of the day, it will hit them. Because this threat is only growing. What we are seeing now is not only that we have graver crimes, more atrocious crimes. We are seeing that the terrorist organizations are equipping themselves with sophisticated technologies, with missiles, with drones, with the means to produce ballistic missiles. Can you imagine that? So this is very dangerous, and therefore we should act together as an international community to isolate the terrorists and those who harbor them.
Now, when you talk to the world, and Israel, of course, is a fighter, but is also a victim of this radical Islamist terror. And the terrorists you face are now increasingly armed with more sophisticated weapons. Is that why you're trying to sensitize the world? Because those Hamas terrorists were also in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. They were trying to radicalize Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists. Is there an apprehension that unless the world wakes up, we will see more Hamas kind of terrorists in different parts of the world?
As much as we have hit Hamas, there's no doubt, and we have to recognize, that in the eyes of many terrorist organizations in the world, what Hamas did on the 7th of October inspired them. And this is very dangerous. And therefore, we have to be more decisive when it comes to dealing with terror threats. When it comes to Israel, we are entering a new phase in our fight against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. So far, we've been blending negotiations with military pressure, and we've managed to bring back 194 hostages. But we have still 59 left. And we have decided, the Israeli cabinet decided 2 days ago, that we are going to enter a new phase, because right now Hamas is refusing to release more terrorists. They want us to surrender and to allow them to rearm and regroup. We will not agree to that. And therefore, we are combining now a new effort in which we are going to create a humanitarian zone in the southern Gaza Strip to get the population go there to receive freely international assistance, free from the grip of Hamas, because Hamas was taking that assistance from them. And then we're going to start taking the Gaza Strip chunk by chunk. Hamas can avoid all this if they give us the hostages now and if they give up their weapons. Israel is not interested in the Gaza Strip. We are interested, and this is what we will achieve eventually. After we do the humanitarian phase and the military phase, we will achieve a situation in which a new government in Gaza Strip comes up, the international community supports it, a government that will give hope to the Palestinians in Gaza.
Am I to understand the message that you have is terror needs to be pounded relentlessly into accepting what is right and what is wrong, and it cannot be a one-off blow and pull back and wait for the response and then land the second blow? Are you telling me Israel intends to continue pounding till terror gives up the weapon?
You know, Israel has been for a very long time living with a situation in which we had a neighbor that was equipping itself with arms and declaring it wants to completely destroy us. And this is what they attempted to do on 7th of October. And therefore, the Israeli public, the Israeli state, the Israeli public opinion is not going to tolerate anymore the existence of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And that's why our cabinet took a decisive measure to get to a situation in which we can get rid of Hamas, bring back hostages, and create a new reality in the Gaza Strip. And that's what we're going to do.
Is there a message there for India that yes, terror has been pounded and terror has been pounded at 9 different locations, but it cannot be a one-off? For example, Balakot was a one-off. It did give India some safety for some time, but then for people like General Asim Munir, they found another opportunity to strike when it was politically convenient to him and his country. Does India need to relentlessly pursue terrorists so that they are on the run and security forces are not just reactive? Is that a signal?
Although there are similarities, the situation is not identical. The strategic situation is different. Each government bears the responsibility to deal with the situation, and I'm sure that the Indian government has the tools, the capabilities, does know how to have the risk assessment and what to do. And we trust India to exercise its rights of self-defense without our advice and without our interference.
What kind of cooperation do India and Israel have in counter-terror operations, in high-end technology to stay a step ahead of terrorists, and especially terrorists that are backed by states?
Well, we are cooperating in many ways in order to increase joint capabilities to deal with future threats. And one example is what we are doing together in missile defense. In our region, the terrorist organizations are equipped with very advanced missiles and rockets. And we have to get prepared both for terrorist threats and other threats. And therefore, India and Israel are together developing solutions when it comes to self-defense in the aerial defense. So this is one example. We are going to continue cooperating with India in these fields because we are determined to defend our people. And there is a lot of added value in these partnerships that we are having with this country.
So are we talking about the Iron Dome system, or are we talking about an Iron Beam system, like a laser to take down the incoming threat?
There are different layers of air defense. And today, for example, this morning, I gave an introductory speech at the MRSAM conference, which is a project between IAI and DRDO, in which they developed together a solution for medium-term missiles.
Surface-to-air missile.
So this is just one example. We are working on many fields, and we're going to continue doing that. And each country is going to be responsible of its security and is going to deal with its own conflicts.
For joining me here on India Today, Ambassador Reuven Azar, many thanks and wish you all the best for the second part of your endeavor to keep Israel safe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
All
sir.
the same to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, sir. So very clearly, the message is that Israel is talking about forearming itself, forewarning itself to use technology to better protect yourself. There is a big story that's coming in. Pakistan Army is actually honoring the terrorists who were killed in the strike. There's an explosive, exclusive video that I get you from Lashkar-e-Taiba headquarters in Muridke. Pakistan Army is there in uniform at a terrorist funeral. Pakistan Army soldiers are carrying coffins of Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists. Watch these images. This is as shocking as it gets, of course, in a democracy, but not in a country that is a state sponsor of radical Islamist terror. Now I want to get you some details of Operation Sindoor, how Operation Sindoor was mounted and how it's different from any other operation that had been undertaken in the past, and how it started from Savai Nala to Sarjal. And I'm showing you some of the places that were targeted. I'm showing you some of these videos. Muridke, one of the biggest strikes by government of India till date in a war on terror. Muridke is the headquarters of Lashkar-e-Taiba. That was targeted. Watch this image that we get you of Kotli. Kotli, south of Pir Panjal, in the opposite the Rajouri Punch area. Again, was a very prominent terrorist launchpad and training center. You're watching images of Kotli. I now want to get you images of Bahawalpur. Remember, 9 places have been targeted by Indian armed forces to respond to Pakistan's state-sponsored terror. That's Kotli Gulpur that once again was targeted. Kotli Gulpur in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And you can see the coordinates of the drone that is going into that area and how it takes down a target. I want to bring in India today's Sandeep, my colleague Sandeep Unithan, who joins me for more on this. Sandeep, when we look at these images and we look at pictures of Pakistan Army soldiers attending a funeral, what message does this send out very clearly, Sandeep?
Well, Gaurav, in Pakistan, the militant organizations, these tanzeems, the Lashkar and the Jaish, they're called Sarkari Mujahideen. It's an open secret that they are actually paramilitary organizations of the state. Like we have the BSF and the CRPF, the Pakistan military has the Lashkar and the Jaish and the Huji and all of these groups. These are all paramilitary arms of the deep state, of the Pakistan army itself. So I'm not at all surprised to see the Pakistan military out there taking ownership of their own, jihadi paramilitaries. And this is as blatant as it gets, Gaurav, and it only goes on to prove the fact that Pakistan is today one of the world's largest sponsors of terrorism. It has the largest number of globally designated terrorists and banned terrorist organizations operating on its soil. And it uses them to bleed its neighbors. 3 out of 4 of its neighbors have a problem with terrorists based in Pakistan. And all of them have struck Pakistan one way or the other over the last couple of months, Gaurav.
Perhaps it's high time everybody strikes the military jihad complex in Pakistan together, because I also want to bring into this conversation, Air Marshal Air Marshal Chopra, who joins us on this special broadcast, Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, who joins us on this broadcast, 2 of the finest military voices joining us on this show. But stay with me. Operation Sindoor. How was Operation Sindoor different? This was also in the heart of Pakistan's Punjab province. It's a big, big signal that India sends out. I want you to take a look at these graphics, why Operation Sindoor is different from anything that was done in the past. 1, it's in Pakistan's Punjab province, the heartland of the terror infrastructure targeted. The first since 1971. Military response to a civilian massacre in Pahalgam. And of course, it's retribution, perhaps starting from the parliament attack to Kalu Chak, to so many other attacks that we've had in our country, all the way to Pulwama and now Uri and of course Pahalgam. Standoff weapons deployed. So Indian Air Force fighter jets were in Indian territory. Drones, we are told, went across, but it was standoff weapons from Indian soil. Scalp and hammer, those missiles and kits were used in this. Airstrikes on multiple terror sites simultaneously, and does this not signal a massive shift in India's doctrine? Air Marshal Anil Chopra, former Director General of Center for Air Power Studies with us, Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, former GOC of Kashmir Corps with us on this special broadcast. General Hasnain, I want to understand from you, when you look at the wreath-laying ceremony that's happening and the namaz-e-janaza that's happening for terrorists, there's a wreath from the COAS, from the Pakistan Army Chief. There are serving army officers who are there at the namaz-e-janaza. What signal does this send out, sir?
Gaurav, thank you. In fact, listening to you, I'm smiling looking at the photographs and the images which are coming here. I mean, Pakistan is a joke. It's in a laughable state. A regular army, a regular Commonwealth army, which fine tradition, is now stooping down to this level where they are actually attending the not only attending the funerals, but conducting the funerals in a with military honors virtually. I mean, this is something which is unheard of in the world anywhere. And I think this is a great amount of evidence which is coming in front of us. This is what India should be presenting to the international community everywhere. And look at this army here. It's in complete support of the terrorists. Everyone knows that these organizations are terrorist organizations. They are banned organizations. But yet in the country, they are flourishing comfortably there. So this is obvious that this is such an awkward thing that is actually for the Indian army, someone from the Indian army, it's a laughable sight to look at.
And I want to talk about the might of the Indian armed forces, the manner in which the precision strikes were carried out before I bring in Air Marshal Chopra into this conversation. Look at the timeline also on the visuals. Exactly at 5 minutes past 1 in the morning till 1:30 in the morning, India launched multiple missile strikes on 9 Pakistani terror training camps. We are told 24 missiles were fired in 25 minutes. Just imagine the speed, the skill, the scale, and the precision with which the threat was neutralized. What we're also being told is initial intelligence assessment is 80 to 90 Pakistani terrorists were eliminated, especially at the 2 headquarters of Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed at Muridke and at Bahawalpur, of course also at the terror launchpads and training centers. At 1:28 a.m., Pakistan Army had put out a post. We're told the army had put out a post. This was own army, ready to attack, trained for victory. At 1:51, own army put out and it declared Pahalgam terror attack, justice served. 1:57 a.m., Pakistan finally woke up to it or reacted to it finally, confirming that there had been a series of strikes by Indian forces. At 2:40 a.m., Pakistan resorted to escalation. It went up the escalation ladder from small arms being used in ceasefire violations to heavy artillery being used across the line of control. Both sides of Pir Panjal, especially south of Pir Panjal in the Punch, Rajouri, Mender areas on our side, the firing happened from the Pakistani side. At 2:47 a.m., the air defense system was activated all along the borders, and at 3:11 a.m., heavy shelling reported, and this time it was north of Pir Panjal in the Uri sector. At 13 minutes past 3 in the morning, the National Security Advisor of India, Ajit Doval, he briefed his US counterpart, the National Security Advisor of the United States of America, Marco Rubio, on the strikes that India had carried out. At 3:16 a.m., Lahore, Sialkot airports, they were shut down for the next 48 hours because Pakistan by then was spooked and panicking. It perhaps expected more strikes. At 3:22 a.m., flights to Islamabad and Lahore were cancelled by Pakistan. Now, I want to bring in Air Marshal Chopra into this conversation on the strikes and the messaging. Air Marshal Chopra, for the benefit of our viewers, explain to us the role that was played by the Indian Air Force in these strikes, because many say in 2019 at Jabba Top, at Balakot, when one terrorist camp had to be targeted, you had 12 Mirage 2000 fighter jets that went in, and a much larger package of Su-30 MKIs and other fighter jets were up in the air, protecting the skies, ensuring total safety for this package. That was one terror camp that was targeted. This time there were 9. Explain to us how this operation was conducted, sir.
Gaurav, unprecedented, new level, 9 targets, 24 missiles stroke loiter munitions. Huge. First time a joint operation, all 3 services involved in this particular strike, mostly by the Army and the Air Force. Surface to surface, air to surface missiles, and of course, as I said, loitering munitions. Huge. This is just stage 1. You know that 9 terror camps, 5 in POK and 4 in Punjab have been struck. You know, much larger numbers of targets have been identified. If Pakistan was to make some foolhardy response, many more targets which are already identified. It's an open source that more than 21 targets have been identified. So there is a lot of action waiting to happen. Yes, their initial response, which has been, Pakistan has been prepared, but still the surprise element. You know, 15 days. Today we were supposed to do a blackout drill in India. They thought that the actual strike may take place 2-3 days later. So the element of surprise, 1 o'clock in the night. Pakistan was, of course, prepared, but, you know, India did not cross, the aircraft didn't cross the LOC or the border this time, and they used precision weapons. You already spoken about the scalp, the hammer, you know, and some of the other munitions that have been used against the target. So there is a unprecedented, you know, response, and shelling on the border. You know, of course, they have initiated, but across the LOC, we have given an appropriate response, and more can happen. Of course, we are all waiting.
It's interesting you're saying more can happen. And if you were to read between the lines, like Sandeep Unnithan and I were attempting to do, and we want your guidance, you and General Atta Hasnain, for more on this. 9 targets taken down, but even the army listed out 21 targets, Sandeep. So the writing was there on the wall for the Pakistanis to see. We know where you are. We've hit some. We can hit some more.
Absolutely, Gaurav. 9 targets hit out of a total of 21 that have been put out by India. And that very clearly signals the steps of the escalation ladder. The statement that came out today from the Foreign Secretary clearly indicated that India had struck in self-defense. It had attacked the terrorist infrastructure. These were terrorists that had been attacking India for decades now. And we took care to attack only the terrorist infrastructure and not to attack civilians. It did not attack the military either. That now leaves room for several other steps in the escalation ladder, Gaurav, because if Pakistan were now to attack, make that foolhardy attempt to attack our civilian infrastructure or our military targets and infrastructure, the responses would follow from us, that we would then take it up the escalation ladder. We will strike at the Pakistan military. We will strike at all the other targets that we have listed in that list, this total of 21 targets, 12 more to go.
That list and a lot more. There's a lot more information that we have, some that perhaps will have to wait a little more time before it can be put out. I want our viewers to take a look at the weapons of war that were used for this operation. Let's for a moment talk about the hammer kit that was used. So this is a guided bomb kit. Now it can be fitted onto a standard bomb, a standard 250-pounder, 500-pounder and a 1,000 kg bomb. A smart kit is fitted onto it, which gives it the precision strike capability of a range of up to 60 to 70 kilometers. The guidance, the INS, GPS, infrared imaging or laser guidance, all of it can be used, a laser designator to target. The launch platform, of course, integrated to the Rafale fighter jets, the Omni-Roll fighter jets, 36 of them in the inventory of the Indian Air Force. But what's the special capability of the hammer system or the hammer smart kits? It's a high precision all-weather strike capability that it has. What's also extremely interesting is the stealth feature and the fact that it can correct its trajectory mid-flight. So it's virtually impossible once the hammer system has been fired. Remember, it was procured during the 2020 India-China standoff to take down the precision, high-valued precision targets that India may have wanted to take down, but it was used effectively here. But let me also talk to you about that cruise missile that was used, the Scalp cruise missile. It's also known as the Storm Shadow, and we're playing out the Storm Shadow for you. This is a long-range air-launched cruise missile with a range of between 350 to 600 kilometers, depending on whether you have the extended range of this missile. The warhead, 450 kilogram broach warhead is what this weapon system has. Again, compatible to be launched from the Rafale fighter jets. It can penetrate, and the best thing about it, and I will show you the images of that Bahawalpur Subhanallah mosque, because when you look at those images, you will know what I'm talking about. This has a two-stage detonation. The first stage is when it penetrates a hard top. It's like a bunker buster. It penetrates, and then when it goes underneath, it can explode. It then explodes. So that's the two stages. So it can take down a bunker. It can take down a fortified structure. Again, the stealth features, very difficult to detect on the radar. It's also, it flies so close to the surface of the earth, almost impossible for the radar to catch this. Once again, I want to bring in Air Marshal Chopra into this conversation. Air Marshal, you saw those pictures of that Bahawalpur madrasa that had been taken down, the headquarters of Jaish-e-Mohammed. If we had the Scalp system, way back in 2019, if we had the hammers, after Balakot, all that was said, proof kahan hai? This time, the Pakistanis are saying, dekh lo proof, that Maulana of terror, Masood Azhar, says he wished he were dead.
Yeah. Gaurav, let me add to what you have already said about Scalp and the hammer, which that we acquired. Actually, the acquisition process started immediately after we inducted the Rafale, and as you mentioned, after 2020, it got accelerated and it came. Scalp was already there. Scalp is a cruise missile, follows the terrain, you feed in the coordinates. Thereafter, she's autonomous. She has various ways of navigating. High CEP, less than 3 meters CEP, and you shown us, we all seen since morning pictures, videos of the attack of the mosque, how it's penetrated, made a hole, and inside we all seen the level of damage that's got. High explosive, 450 kg, got a heavy, explosive. Similarly, hammer is essentially a glide bomb, which the range also depends on what speed you will release it, because faster speed you launch at, it will go a little longer away. It will open its wings once it's in flight. Again, as I said, the kits are for different 250, 500, and 1,000 kgs. Different types of bombs. The accuracies are very high. They are expensive weapons. So therefore, no country buys after doing a lot of trials and tests. So therefore, a great choice of weapons, undoubtedly. And of course, we are not yet talking much about the loiter munitions. What loiter munitions have actually been used? They would have caused a lot of. We all know that we have got our own Happy type of loiter munitions, which are also very, very powerful. What exactly the type of drones that are being used? They are not yet in public domain, but I'm sure we will hear about it very, very soon. Yes.
General Hasnain, when you look at those images of the Masjid-e-Subhanallah, the Markaz-Subhanallah at Bahawalpur, when you look at that image of Muridke and the destruction there, you've commanded your corps in Kashmir, and both these terrorist groups, they've bled Kashmir from that first terror attack, that suicide attack at the main gate of the Badami Bagh cantonment, that suicide bombing, that VBIED, to the number of terror attacks in J&K. What went through your mind when you saw these images? What kind of an attack was this on the soul of that radical Islamist terror, sir?
Hey, Gaurav, there are two aspects which are important for us to remember. Firstly, of course, precision-guided munitions of this kind, which were not available there, and as you very correctly say, after 2020, they were acquired, gives us a capability, a completely transformational capability, taking the Balakot strike many generations beyond. And this is something that Pakistan will obviously take note of. What is not emerging in many of the analyses is the fact that Sialkot, Muridke, and Bahawalpur, all the facilities hit are very close to conventional Pakistan Army headquarters also. There is 31 Corps headquarters at Bahawalpur, 8 kilometers away from that site. There is Muridke, which is 42 kilometers from Lahore, where the headquarters of 4 Corps is. And Sialkot itself, we are aware of the contents of the forces in Sialkot. This should be an adequate message that today we've ratcheted this to the level of striking at terrorist facilities. But we are fully aware, and the NIA's initial findings also have told us that this deep state involving the Pakistan Army, the ISI, and the terrorist leadership, in this case involving the Lashkar-e-Toiba, were behind the Pahalgam attack. And obviously, therefore, the next level of escalation, if it takes place, and I'm sure Pakistan is not going to stop at this, they will and definitely try and take this to the next level of some kind of a sub-conventional strike again against us. If that happens, this should be a lesson for Pakistan. The next PGM could land on any of their headquarters, and they should be prepared for that.
That's a very significant point you make. And I want you to elaborate on it before I bring in Sandeep Unnithan and Air Marshal Chopra into this conversation once again, because you are taking this conversation to the next level. Are you saying that after India targeted 9 terrorist locations, Pakistan would hit back? But what would it hit? Some civilian area? A brigade headquarters, a battalion headquarters? Would it go after a military target? Would it go after a bridge, a roadhead, a dam? What would Pakistan hit in India in your appreciation, sir? General Hussain.
Oh, you're asking. Okay. Gaurav, a counter-strike in this manner need not take place in the next 2 days, 10 days, 20 days, or even 3 months. We know that Pakistan's doctrine is not about conventional strikes, and they don't have that capability either. Their strength lies in sub-conventional. Pahalgam was sub-conventional, and therefore whatever they do will be in the sub-conventional domain. And they know that responses to the sub-conventional domain is always a difficult decision for any adversary to make. But here India has conveyed a very strong message. We have the capability to hit precisely a location, a headquarter, even a personality, if it arises in the future. We've done it this time. We can do it next time to something greater.
Very interesting. Sandeep, would you share that appreciation that Pakistan realizes conventionally it is not in a position to target the Indian armed forces? It may not be its air force, the army, perhaps beyond those artillery strikes at the LC. General Hussain, and I'll come back to you to respond to that. And perhaps Pakistan would once again use this radical Islamist terror threat to bleed India. Or will Pakistan Army, General Asim Munir, if you were to read his mind, would he want to resort and retaliate through a military strike?
Well, Gaurav, if it was General Rahil Sharif as the army chief, or even General Bajwa as army chief, there wouldn't have been a retaliation. But it is General Asim Munir. All of this is his doing. He believes he is, he has arrived to save Pakistan from the chaos that it is in, and he has landed it into even greater chaos. It is in the kind of economic mess. It's in a politically unstable, and he has chosen to go down this path of conflict with India. So now it is actually a blow to Asim Munir's plans. The fact that we could carry out the biggest attacks against Pakistan, especially those 5 targets in Pakistan's Punjab province, the biggest attack since 1971. The geographical spread of these attacks, Gaurav, 700 kilometers apart. From targets in POK right down to Bahawalpur in southern Punjab, that tells you the sheer spread of these targets, the kind of precision munitions that were used. The messaging that has been conveyed to the Pakistan military is that you can try and hide your terrorists wherever, but we will get them eventually. So the ball is now in General Asim Munir's court, and like I said, General Asim Munir is a smaller version of General Pervez Musharraf. He has possibly half the IQ of General Musharraf, and that makes him really dangerous and unpredictable. And Pakistan Army's entire game is about parity with India. So if General Asim Munir, if we were to read his mind, he would look at avenging these attacks with some kind of symbolic 9 or even possibly 10 such symbolic strikes across the border into India, which is precisely the reason that India has shown all those steps in the escalatory ladder that we have not targeted the Pakistan military yet. But if you choose to respond to today's attacks, then we will move up the escalatory ladder. So we have
Marshal
established
Chopra,
escalatory dominance with this strike today.
is that also your appreciation? Would Pakistan, and I've been reading a lot of commentary across which seems to indicate that their air power, despite our 36 Rafales, despite our S-400s, Pakistan claims with their J-10Cs, with their PL-15 air-to-air missiles, with their JF-17 Thunders and some of those J-20s, their air power is superior to ours. Would you agree with that assessment that the Pakistanis have? And can they launch an airstrike, a missile strike, or a conventional strike against India in retaliation, either now or later?
I tend to agree with Sandeep. Why? See, firstly, that Pakistan military's ego is hurt. Surely they would want to respond. And as you rightly brought out, that there is no terrorist camp they can come and hit. So what they will try and hit some military targets, a small package, just to assuage their ego. And that's all. But we know that if they hit a single military target in India, India will respond. This morning only I have written an article which has been uploaded on the comparison of Pakistan Air Force and Indian Air Force. Many more things have happened between Balakot and now. We got the S-400, S-400, 400 kilometers, 600 kilometers the radar cover, 400 kilometers the missile cover. So therefore, they are conscious. Our number of, we got 260 Su-30 MKIs and upgraded Mirage 2000 MiG-29s and of course Rafale. And air-to-air missile, let me tell you, the Meteor has got a range of 180 kilometers. PL-15E, the export version, which is with Pakistan, has got a range of 145 kilometers. All their other missiles are 100 and below. So therefore, we have already got Astra 1, which is already flying, which has got 100 kilometers. Astra 2 is already tested. You will have 170 kilometers range. And then, of course, Astra 3 will have 350 kilometers. So what I'm getting at is, purely in terms of numbers. Next is sustainability. They'll run out of ammunition. They don't have the kind of surface-to-surface launch cruise missiles, the numbers that we have got. So they don't have a single loitering munition of the class of Harop and the Hunt. So therefore, I think that they have to be very, very careful, not allow the escalation to go out of control. They have no money. They will, nobody's going to give them ammunition for free. So therefore, I think the army will be very, very careful. They will think about it. Maybe they have already said they'll take their own time. And as Sandeep said, they could take a couple of days to respond. So it's a wait and watch, but we have to be careful. We have to be ready. We can't let them get away this time. Yeah.
General Hasnain, when you look at the bigger picture of India's response, do you look at it as a game changer? Do you look at it as a tactical response? Do you look at it as a strategic response, upping the game completely? And how would Pakistan Army Chief be reacting to it? Will he be under tremendous stress from Imran Khan supporters within his country? Is he now on a sticky wicket, sir?
Gaurav, going from one target at Balakot or Jabba Top to 9 targets is an exponential leap. And that should be taken stock of when we look and analyze this whole thing. I think the transformational leap has been made because of the acquisition of this weaponry by the Indian Air Force and the other services and the precision capability that we have acquired. And the will to demonstrate this. The will to demonstrate this through good target acquisition before through intelligence means, which was very essential. Therefore, in my assessment, this was a hugely strategic decision which was taken, and it will have a huge strategic impact because it will lull Pakistan into now thinking that the next one can be even bigger. So this is an increase which is taking place, an escalatory ladder which will be the next rung which we are going to. Pakistan, of course, still retains the capability of having its a sub-conventional option running along. And that is not going to be given up in a hurry, as very correctly assessed by Sandeep just now. It is a very irrational chief that you have at the moment there. Pakistan, as it is an irrational nation. The deep state is irrational. But here, with the chief currently there, it is absolutely gone bonkers. And that's why we can expect anything from them.
Okay, and Sandeep, quick last word to you. When you assess the bigger picture, because you and I have covered 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, you and I have covered the 2006 train attacks in which 200 people were massacred, so 366 just here. Plus, if you were to add the 1993 Mumbai blast in which 257 people had been killed, Zaveri Bazaar, German bakery, Raghunath Mandir, Parliament attack, J&K assembly attack, this is retribution. Would this get into the psyche of terrorists like Hafiz Mohammed Saeed or that Maulana of terror Masood Azhar, who today was quoted saying, with 10 members of his family dead, he wished he were dead too?
Gaurav, I don't take what the Maulana Masood Azhar and Hafiz Saeed think, because what they think matters very little. Because like I said, about 2019, the Balakot attack, a line had been crossed. India had crossed a red line. The bombs had fallen on Jabba Top, but the impact was felt in GHQ Rawalpindi. So with today's attacks, Gaurav, as General Hasnain mentioned, that these are massive in a way that we have never attacked the terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan. The number of targets, the sheer spread of targets, 9 targets across 700 kilometers from POK right down to southern Punjab. This itself signifies a very, very big shift in India's response. And that message has gone to GHQ Rawalpindi, Gaurav, and they will think 10 times before launching any such attack like Pulwama or Pahalgam, because they know that the next attack is going to be even bigger. And that is going to be something like what the Israelis say, mowing the grass. We have no option, Gaurav, but to keep mowing the grass. Every few years, come back with a bigger attack to take down this infrastructure of terrorism. Because the ultimate goal, Gaurav, here is to get the Pakistan army to stop sponsoring terrorism, stop using terrorism as an instrument of state policy like they've been doing from Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, Mumbai, right down to Pahalgam in 2025. It's almost 4 decades of terrorism.
That message is very clear. Terror should no longer remain a low-cost option for Pakistan Army. And after these 9 targets were taken down, clearly it's an unaffordable cost, or is it? We'll track that story very closely. Gentlemen, for joining me here on this India Today special broadcast, many thanks. There's breaking news that's coming in. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri has just briefed envoys of the United Nations Security Council countries in India on the current situation along the line of control, and the escalation by Pakistani side gave details about how Pakistan is shielding a Lashkar-e-Taiba front called the Resistance Front. India's response, the Foreign Secretary, as he pointed out earlier this morning, was targeted, measured and non-escalatory. The Pahalgam terror attack was a barbaric attack. The manner in which those Pakistani terrorists singled out tourists, asked them their names, their religion, and shot dead Hindus, singling them out in front of their wives, their children, and the survivors. The wives were told, "Jao, Modi ko batao." So that was a very clear signal that radical Islamist terror was sending India today.
In May and November 2024, front has claimed responsibility for the attack. This group is a front for the UN-proscribed Pakistani terrorist group Lashkar-e-Taiba. It is notable that India had given inputs about the TRF in the half-yearly report to the monitoring team of the UN's 1267 Sanctions Committee in May and November 2024, bringing out its role as a cover for Pakistan-based terrorist groups. Earlier too, in December 2023, India had informed the monitoring team about Lashkar and Jaish-e-Mohammed operating through small terror groups such as the TRF. Pakistan's pressure to remove references to TRF in the April 25 UN Security Council press statement is notable in this regard.
So not one, not two, but 9 terror targets, including the headquarters of Lashkar-e-Taiba at Muridke and Jaish-e-Mohammed at Bahawalpur, very close to the core headquarters of the Pakistan Army, was taken down by Indian missiles and Indian operations. We'll continue to get you developments on the story, but that is all I have for you on 5 Live this evening. Many thanks for watching.
India avenges Pahalgam innocents. "25 minutes, 9 terror targets demolished." Terror bosses target number 1. Hafiz Saeed and Masood Azhar's terror havens blown. Pakistan pays for snatching Sindoor. India's Operation Sindoor. Top focus on Super 6.
Hello and welcome. Good evening. You're joining us for a special edition of Super 6 here on India Today as we continue our non-stop coverage on Operation Sindoor. There were 3 clear targets in Pakistan and POK. Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba and Hizbul Mujahideen. The biggest terror bosses being targeted by India, and a message being sent across to them that if you bleed, India will come after you. Over the next 60 minutes, I'm going to be getting you all the updates that are coming in on the meetings that are happening in the national capital, on Pakistan's provocations along the border, resorting to repeated ceasefire violations, and much, much more. In the last many hours, non-stop updates that have been coming in since Operation Sindoor, since the successful carrying out of that operation. If you've been missing out on all those updates, we've got you covered here on India Today. Let's begin with the top 10 updates, developments that have come in. Prime Minister Modi met with President Draupadi Murmu at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, briefed her on Operation Sindoor, which targeted 9 terror camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Prime Minister Modi chaired a meeting of the Union Cabinet at his residence in 7 Lok Kalyan Marg, hours after Operation Sindoor was launched. In his first reaction to Operation Sindoor, Prime Minister Modi hailed the same, calling it a proud moment for all of us. He was speaking to his cabinet ministers in that meeting. Prime Minister Modi also held another huddle with Home Minister Amit Shah and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. Now, the Prime Minister also held separate high-level discussions with the Home Minister, with the Defence Minister on Operation Sindoor and the aftermath. Reaction also came in from Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, who said the armed forces only struck down those who killed innocent people. Praising our forces, Rajnath Singh chanted Bharat Mata Ki Jai. Following the launch of Operation Sindoor, Home Minister Amit Shah chaired a high-level meet with chief ministers and other concerned government officials of various states, including Jammu Kashmir, Punjab and Rajasthan, those which border Pakistan. Soon after the focused precision strikes on terrorists and terrorist infrastructure, NSA Ajit Doval briefed his counterparts of several countries, including America, UK, Saudi, UAE, Japan. Contact was also established with the Russian NSA. India briefed the envoys of both permanent and non-permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, excluding Pakistan, on the details and objectives of Operation Sindoor. The Chinese ambassador to India was also called to the MEA headquarters for a detailed briefing on Operation Sindoor. Both Congress Chief Mallikarjun Kharge and Leader of Opposition Rahul Gandhi lauded Operation Sindoor, lauded our forces for the successful operation, reiterating that they stand with our army as unity and solidarity is the need of the hour in India. Let's recap for you what exactly Operation Sindoor was all about. Precision strikes, buildings, mosques, which essentially served as terror hideouts, terror hubs, were targeted in these strikes deep into Pakistan, into POK, by our forces. This was a 25-minute operation. It lasted essentially from 1:05 to 1:30 this morning. And what you see on your screens are the images of the strike. These pictures are from Murike, very close to Lahore, which is what makes this operation so challenging and yet pulled off by our forces. On the right of your screens, you see these pictures of when the strike actually happened, with multiple explosions rocking this very building. On the left, early morning images of the aftermath. Nothing left but rubble, broken to bits the entire building, and only that building. If you notice in that footage, everything else, including the fencing, completely intact. Let's take a look also at Bahawalpur. Now, while we told you about Murike, which is the LET headquarters, Bahawalpur is the Jaish-e-Mohammed headquarters. So, multiple terror outfits that we went after. So, again, pictures there of when the strike happened, and that's footage, essentially, that our forces released, which is why you can see that it's footage that's captured by drones, and then what essentially it looks like right after. We're also putting out another comparison here of what that mosque looked like in Bahawalpur before the strike versus what it looks like now. Nothing but rubble, as you can see. The missile seems to have fallen right from the roof, which is why there's a deep crater where exactly the missile has fallen. There you see it on your screens right now. And all of those who are inside, terrorists, part of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, neutralized, including Masood Azhar's family members, his aides, which we'll talk about in just a bit. But just look at that difference. And that tells you the impact of these strikes. That tells you how really all of the terrorists who were being sheltered by the Pakistani army, who were protected by the Pakistan army for the last many years, taking that protection for granted, thinking nobody can touch them while they're in the heart of Pakistan, close to Lahore, in Bahawalpur, which is a Jaish core area. They were clearly mistaken, as India ensured that these precision strikes targeted exactly these buildings. But there are videos now that have emerged, which our forces have put out, detailed videos of exactly what these strikes look like. In some cases, it was, in fact, long-range cruise missiles like the Scat missile that was used, fired off from Rafales from Indian soil to target far-off locations, far-off targets. Then there were others where drones were used to also go ahead and attack particular locations in Pakistan and POK. All of this in a matter of 25 minutes. Take a look at our next report, where we kind of decode for you each of the videos that have emerged, what it establishes, how the strike actually took place.
After 2 weeks of diplomatic strikes on Pakistan, India gives a fitting military response. Operation Sindoor, launched by Indian forces on Wednesday, targeted terrorist hideouts and camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. 1:04 a.m. Target number 1, Abbas terrorist camp at Kotli in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. 13 kilometers from line of control, the camp, according to the army, is a nerve center for training suicide bombers of Lashkar-e-Taiba and has training infrastructure for over 50 terrorists. Target number 2, Sarjal in Sialkot. A Jaish-e-Mohammed camp located just 8 kilometers from the international border is hit. 1:11 a.m., a Hizbul Mujahideen training camp in Mehmoona, close to Sarjal in Sialkot, is struck. The Indian military also targeted 3 major Lashkar and Jaish hubs. The most critical strike was on Murid-Ke, 30 km from the Samba border. The Lashkar-e-Taiba headquarters, which was operating out of a mosque, was bombed 4 times. The terrorists behind the 26/11 Mumbai attacks were housed at this very location. Another major target, Bahawalpur Masjid, the headquarters of the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Located 100 km from the international border, this is where Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar suffered major losses. Seven close aides, his elder sister, brother-in-law, nephew, and the Kotli camp commander are killed in the strike. Indian forces also hit a Jaish-e-Mohammed transit camp in a mosque at Muzaffarabad, Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. This facility was used to train terrorists with the support of Pakistan Army. Another major target was the Bhimbar camp in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, housing several active terrorists. Additional locations like Gulpur and Chak Amru, used for training, weapons storage and safe houses, were hit. Gulpur has been linked to the April 2023 Poonch terror attack. The details and proof of Operation Sindoor were released by the government on Wednesday morning. The media briefing was conducted by 2 women officers in a tribute to the widows of the Pahalgam attack victims.
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर 22 अप्रैल को पहलगाम में हुए विभत्स आतंकवादी हमले के शिकार मासूम नागरिकों व उनके परिवारों को न्याय देने के लिए लॉन्च किया गया था। इस कार्रवाई में 9 टेररिस्ट कैंप्स को टारगेट किया गया और पूरी तरह से इसे बर्बाद किया गया।
No military establishments were targeted. India has demonstrated considerable restraint in its response. However, it must be said that the Indian armed forces are fully prepared to respond to Pakistani misadventures, if any, that will escalate the situation.
Operation Sindoor struck at the heart of the terror network in Pakistan. Will Pakistan learn its lessons remains the big question. Bureau Report, India Today.
And we've got big breaking news coming in. 9 terror sites that were targeted in these strikes by the Indian forces. But sources telling us that this seems to be just the beginning, that India can take similar action on other terrorist bases in Pakistan in the coming days as well. So we're going to perhaps see Operational Sindoor continuing. I want to bring in Himanshu Mishra for more details on this. Himanshu, क्या ये कह सकते हैं कि जो हमने देखा है अब तक वो सिर्फ फेज 1 है ऑपरेशन सिंदूर का?
देखिए, बिल्कुल एक तरीके से देखा जाए तो अभी पहला स्टेप है। अगर पाकिस्तान की तरफ से रिटेलिएट किया जाएगा तो भारत इससे बड़ा जवाब देगा और आज भारत ने पूरी तरीके से पाकिस्तान को एयरफोर्स के जरिए और ज़मीन पर जो है आर्मी के जरिए जो है पूरी तरीके से जवाब दिया और आतंकी हमला जो हुआ था उसको लेकर पलटवार है। और भारत ने एक अगर देखें तो वैश्विक स्तर पर जो है एक बड़ी कूटनीति बनाई थी, जिसमें अगर आप देखें तो यूएन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल के जो 5 मेंबर हैं उनमें से 4 मेंबर भारत के साथ खड़े थे, चाहे वो रूस हो, यूएसए हो, यूके हो या फ्रांस। चीन की भी जो भाषा थी, चीन की तरफ से भी जो जवाब था वो पाकिस्तान के पक्ष में पूरी तरीके से नहीं दिखाई दिया और इसीलिए पाकिस्तान जो है पूरी तरीके से अलग थलग दिखा। सिर्फ एक टर्की को देखा जाए तो उसने हमें पाकिस्तान का खुलकर समर्थन किया है। इसीलिए पाकिस्तान को अगर इस तरीके से दोबारा वो रिटेलिएट करता है, किसी भी आतंकी घटना को दोबारा अंजाम देगा तो भारत इससे बड़ा कड़ा प्रहार जो है वो पाकिस्तान पे कर उसको ये बताएगा कि आतंकवाद अब भारत में नहीं चलेगा। आतंकवाद अगर पाकिस्तान के द्वारा किया जाएगा तो भारत इस तरीके का जवाब देगा जिसको पाकिस्तान के लिए सहना थोड़ा मुश्किल होगा।
Okay, this is big breaking news that Himanshu is getting us, that we could see in the coming days more such strikes. It could change, of course, the manner of the strike, the manner of the operation. It could be completely different from the current form that we've seen of the hit back at Pakistan terror camps. But we're hearing sources suggesting that India could go ahead and take similar action on other terror bases in Pakistan in the coming days. 9 sites have been hit. We all know that there are hundreds more in Pakistan, and so we could see India going ahead and targeting more of these sites. ये सवाल भी उठता है हिमांशु कि क्या जो टेरर मास्टरमाइंड्स है जैसे हफीज सईद या मसूद अजहर उनको भी टारगेट कर सकते हैं. All right, we'll get Himanshu in just a bit for more details on that, but you're going to be seeing essentially more such steps being taken to tackle these terror hotspots, to tackle these terror hubs. So what we've seen so far could just be part 1 of Operational Sindoor. And this is why forces repeatedly have been saying that, look, this is an ongoing operation. But it was a challenging operation. Looks very simple by how our forces managed to pull it off. But here's why. It was extremely challenging, and we must laud our forces for what they've pulled off here. Pakistan was in a state of high alert. You had ministers openly talking about it, saying, look, India's going to strike any moment. It's going to happen in 24 hours and 36 hours. So they were at the highest level of alert. And despite that, India managed to pull this off with Pakistan having no clue. And how did we do it? We went right into the heart of Pakistan without stepping foot in Pakistani soil. From our own territory, we fired missiles and we've landed right next to Lahore even. And that tells you how these precision strikes have been hugely successful. And that's exactly it. This strike has happened without entering into Pakistan. It's not a surgical strike. This has happened with all of us, our equipment staying within India and firing at these terror hubs. And we've conducted 9 strikes simultaneously. All of this happening in one go. Essentially, these locations were identified, was planned to the T, and then at one go, all strikes took place. So it was a small window of time. Our forces knew that once that alert goes off, that one strike has happened, it will alert all of the authorities in Pakistan. So in a small window of time of 25 minutes, all of the strikes took place. And that's why it was planned to the T. Extremely challenging this, but between 1:05 to 1:30, all strikes done and dusted, all precision strikes, all hit the targets that were intended. But essentially, if you look at really who were the targets of these strikes, it was Hafiz Saeed, it was also Masood Azhar. And let's talk about Hafiz Saeed first, the terror mastermind behind Pahalgam, behind 26/11, and so many other terror attacks on Indian soil. Hafiz Saeed's biggest hideouts of the Lashkar-e-Taiba were identified, tracked down, and bombarded with missiles. 3 of the 9 targets were LET camps. But the one in Murike is crucial. Why? Because Murike is the LET headquarters with all terror recruitments, terror activities based out of this one location. And it's also extremely challenging because Murike is close to Lahore. Let's put out those details also of why Murike. It's close to Lahore, and this is the Lashkar-e-Taiba headquarters, which is why our forces are hell-bent on going ahead and ensuring that strike was at the LET headquarters to hit the very core of Lashkar-e-Taiba. It's led, of course, by Hafiz Saeed, 26/11 mastermind. And this particular masjid that was hit in fact, Murike, was Masjid Taiba. Hafiz Saeed is known to have visited this particular masjid several times. It's where recruitment happens, it's where brainwashing, indoctrination happens, it's where camps also take place for all of the training to push them into Indian soil then for infiltrations. The mosque has directly been linked to LET terror activities, and we've got confessions on record on that. 26/11 terrorist Ajmal Kasab, while in custody in India, confessed that he was actually trained in Murike, in this very camp. He also confirmed that he had meetings with Hafiz Saeed in this camp, in this mosque. And so that tells you how much details and how many years our agencies have actually been tracking this one location. Kasab also described what the complex looks like. He said it was key to training, planning, and indoctrination. And then add to Kasab's testimony, you also had the fact that David Headley, had also testified about this, about how he met Hafiz Saeed at this very location. I'll bring in Arvind Oja for more details on this. Arvind, the clear intent is to send out a message to Hafiz Saeed, जो एक हफ्ते पहले हमने expose किया कि Hafiz Saeed अभी लाहौर में है, काफी पास में है to this very location.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, लेकिन देखिए ये 9 जो लोकेशन है जो टारगेट किया उसमें जो 2 लोकेशन है वो काफ़ी ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है और कभी किसी ने, कोई सिक्योरिटी एक्सपर्ट से आप पूछ लीजिए, कभी किसी ने सोचा नहीं होगा कि मरकज़े तोयबा जो मुरीदके में है, लश्कर का हेडक्वार्टर है, वहाँ कभी इंडिया अटैक करेगा। और शायद पाकिस्तान आर्मी को और हाफिज सईद को भी इस बारे में अंदाज़ा नहीं होगा। जबकि जब भी इंडिया में कोई टेरर अटैक होता था, खासतौर से अगर मुंबई 26/11 की बात कर लीजिए आप, तो उसमें इसी मरकज़े तोयबा जो मस्जिद है मुरीद के, उसका नाम आया था क्योंकि कसाब समेत जो 10 टेररिस्ट थे उन्होंने यहाँ पर एक ट्रेनिंग ली थी, इंटेलिजेंस गैदरिंग की ट्रेनिंग यहाँ पर उन्होंने ली थी कसाब और 10 आतंकवादियों ने। उसके अलावा पहलगाम में जो आतंकवादी हमला हुआ था, उस हमले के जो टेररिस्ट थे वो भी यहाँ पर ट्रेंड हुए थे। यहाँ पर अटैक होना बहुत बड़ी बात है। दूसरा जो जैश का हेडक्वार्टर है बहावलपुर में, उसको भी अटैक करना बड़ी बात है। ये भी बताया जाता है कि ओसामा बिन लादेन ने $10 मिलियन वो डोनेशन दिया था यहाँ पर जो बिल्डिंग है उसको बनाने के लिए। तो ये बड़ा टारगेट था। दो खासतौर से बहावलपुर में जो मस्जिद सुभान अल्लाह है उसको टारगेट किया इंडिया ने, और साथ ही साथ मुरीदके में जो लश्कर का हेडक्वार्टर है उसको टारगेट किया। 9 में ये 2 ऐसे टारगेट हैं जिससे जो पाकिस्तान की आर्मी है, पाकिस्तान की खुफिया एजेंसी ISI है, वो काफ़ी ज़्यादा डर गई है, चौंक गई है, क्योंकि POK में पहले भी 2 बार सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक हो चुकी है। और अगर इंडिया अटैक करता है तो बहुत हद तक मान के पाकिस्तान ISI और आर्मी ये चल रहे थे कि POK में जो लॉन्च पैड है उनको निशाना बनाया जाएगा। लेकिन इंडिया ने इस बार 2 कदम आगे जाकर पाकिस्तान में बहावलपुर और मुरीदके 2 जगह पर लश्कर और जैश के
we will talk about Bahawalpur in just a bit. Just putting the focus once again on Muridke, and Arvind gave you details of why this particular strike is so crucial in the fight against Lashkar-e-Taiba. These locations effectively are terror training camps. They're also launch pads for the Lashkar-e-Taiba. We had visited this very spot in Muridke back in 2010. Let's get you that report to give you a sense of what it looked like, and you can also compare that to the images that have now come in of it looking completely destroyed, decimated, blown to bits.
A sign that screams, this is the headquarters of the Jamaat-ud-Dawa. An automatic Kalashnikov-wielding man stands at the gate. There are other armed men behind these high walls and barbed wires. Located 30 kilometers from Pakistan's second largest city, Lahore. For the first time ever, we take you inside these forbidding gates. Headlines Today takes you inside the headquarters of the Jamaat-ud-Dawa, the front organization for the Lashkar-e-Taiba. This is the first time ever that an Indian news channel has crossed the fortified barricade at Muridke. Muridke is acknowledged worldwide for being the headquarters of Hafiz Mohammad Saeed, the professor of terror. Hafiz Saeed has been declared an international terrorist by the United Nations. Security Council Resolution 1267 passed in December 2008 bans this man and his organization, the Jamaat-ud-Dawa. For a few months after 26/11, there was a complete ban on the Jamaat. But now Hafiz Saeed and the Jamaat are back, and how? The JUD headquarters is spread over 75 sprawling acres in Muridke, a mere 30 kilometers from Lahore. The Pakistan government promised to shut down the JUD, but that has still not happened. Even though the Jamaat-ud-Dawa tries very hard to pass off this compound as a charitable institute, but talk within the compound still revolves very much around terror. They continue to ideologically support the Lashkar-e-Taiba. This is exactly the poison that's fed to young, impressionable minds when they come to attend classes in Murid. Poison that later takes the form of Ajmal, Amir Kasab and others who go on to wage war against India.
Hafiz Saeed, let's face it, is the very face of evil for India and for the world. Globally designated terrorist, and here's why. He's ensured he has the blood of thousands of Indians on his hands, having conducted and carried out one terror strike after another. From 2000, when you had the Chitti Singhpura attack in a town in Kashmir, a targeted attack on Sikhs in which 36 people died, to the 2001 parliament attack, which was conducted by the Jaish-e-Mohammed with a role of the LET as well, in which the death toll was 9, with police personnel, security personnel dying in that particular terror attack. The 2006 Mumbai serial train blasts, a massive death toll of 209, links to those terrorists directly to Hafiz Saeed. The 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, who can forget? 166 people died, and it was all the master plan of Hafiz Saeed. And now the Pahalgam terror attack, tourists, Hindu tourists being targeted in Pahalgam, 26 of them shot dead by this man's terrorists. And that's why our forces are trying to send out a message to Hafiz Saeed that you can run, you cannot hide. I want to bring in now Ujjwal Nikam, who was the special public prosecutor in the 26/11 case, who has read into great detail about the LET's role in Indian attacks on Indian soil, but also